All right, so here we are, our first video that we're going to shoot in North Carolina, continuing the series with the R90/6. We've done a lot on it. If you've been following along, we've done a bunch of stuff to this bike, and now we're getting down to kind of the real detail work, which is going to be really a lot of fun. First thing we're going to try to take care of is the electrics now. I've got the battery hooked up, or not hooked up, but in place, so I'm ready, but need to make sure this is all sound. We're going to put the correct headlight on because the original headlight that was on the bike was incorporated into the fairing. It was one of those seal beam things, wouldn't fit here. So we've got parts to do that. A lot of work to do cleaning up, getting rid of this pigtail that was part of the fairing thing and identifying which wires do what, lengthening them, and so let's get busy. First thing I want to do is assemble that headlight bucket so that we make sure it fits correctly and everything before we go on and tackle all these electrical problems. Let's go. All right, the first thing we're going to do now is assemble the components of the headlight assembly, which was missing from the bike because it had the seal beam built into the fairing. So I got some of the components laid out here. This is headlight reflector, and I've got the chrome ring here, so that's all nice. The lens, and then the other parts we'll need here are the lens gasket, some clips here, the bulbs, and so let's put this thing together. So the first thing is this rubber has a little cutout like so, and you can see that there's a thin edge and a wide edge, and the thin edge goes towards the inside like that. You just got to kind of work it into position so that it's even around the edge. Okay, all right, so the screw is what here, and this clamp is what holds the whole assembly in place, and that goes on the bottom. And the lens is clearly marked top. So this goes together like that. Plus, there's a little dimple on the headlight lens that corresponds with the cutout here. So you need to line those pieces up like so. And then it's a little bit fiddly, but while you're holding all this together, you need to also then take the reflector, which also has a cutout for the bottom, and slip that all in, get this sort of out of the way. That all goes together like so. Then once you've got everything kind of pushed into place, then you put these little clips in like that, and they just go underneath the edge and push down and hook it in like that. And the next one, there's 6 of them. You should use 6 of them. You want to not put any at the top. Like that. Okay, so that's the completed assembly ready to go on the bike without the bulb. So all of the parts that we're installing right now are things that we always usually try to keep in stock because there's quite a lot of bikes out there that need this. And so next thing we got to do is put the bulbs in. So the new headlight reflector is supplied with the bulb socket, but there's no bulb in here for the parking light. So pull that out, and then you just simply put the new bulb in there like so, and push that right back in. And then the headlight bulb, squeeze these 2 tabs, open that, swing this little wire clip out of the way, like that, and then we'll get a new H4 bulb. Now you got a few different H4 bulbs. This is just like a standard H4 bulb. We also have some brighter ones and so on, but these work just fine. Now make sure that whenever you handle a halogen bulb, it's not so important on the little parking light bulb, but on the halogen bulbs like this H4, anything that starts with an H, you don't want to touch the glass. Always handle the bulb only by the base. And the clip pulled away, the bulb only goes in one way because of the little tabs on there. You see also that the there's 3 poles here, and the top one of the 3 is facing up, the blank spot facing down. So that's another way to figure out which way they go. But really, there's these 3 tabs of varying thicknesses, and it only fits one way. And then you fold this clip back down inside, like so. So this thing's ready to install. When we get back over to the bike, you'll see that the wiring's been kind of messed with, and I don't think that the original connector is there. So we have to improvise a little bit. This is actually a really cool part that we offer. This is indeed a headlight connector for an H4 bulb. And what's neat about it is you can connect the wires real easily. It's got a really strong spring, and you take a tip of the wire that's been tinned with solder, push against the spring, slip the wire in, release, makes a very solid connection. And so this is perfect for this type of a project because it's a really nice trim little connector for the headlight. So this is what I'm going to use in this case, and we need to just get the wires all prepped so that we can plug that in and get the lights burning. So let's get back over to the bike. Now the fun part, we're going to unwind all the evil things that have been done to the electrical system on this bike. This was the sort of multi-plug that was used for the old fairing that was on there. And presumably they cut away a lot of the original connectors and things like that, but it's always good to just kind of go in and see what's all there. So I'm going to sort of carve away at that electrical tape that's on here. Just kind of cut into it with a razor blade. Okay, now we're starting to see what's down here. Okay, so now you can see that basically trying to understand what they did, what whoever it was did, so we can kind of make a assessment of what needs to be done. So it looks like these 3 wires were not used, so they just kind of like blocked them off. And then luckily, it looks like they didn't mangle the original harness too badly. So this apparently, this is actually the parking light bulb socket that came with the new reflector we looked at a little bit ago. So that's what that is. So that's that gray wire with a black stripe, which makes sense because it's a parking light circuit. So we can take that off. This is good to go. That one's good to go. Now that we've got these 3 other wires, and this all makes perfect sense actually. The brown wire is ground. Brown is always ground. The white wire is the high beam, and the yellow wire is the low beam. So now they made it with these little connector things, so we can just unplug all that. Then he's got another wire here, presumably, well, let's tap in it. It's just held in with a Scotch lock, so that's okay. This is kind of a bridge thing. We're just gonna take those out because theoretically the wire is still gonna be in okay shape and it doesn't need to be replaced. We're just gonna basically get these out of the equation completely. Usually you just get in there and sort of get a piece of it. The way these work is they just have a little metal clip, sort of, that bridges the wire, kind of slices through the insulation. Take that apart. Get that out of here. Kind of spread this apart any way you can get the thing off of there. That. Now these wires, this is where you can see, this is the turn signal wire, because the turn signals were located in the fairing. And so the wire is still intact, but it's pretty compromised. It's as a result of that Scotch lock thing. So probably what we're going to want to do is go ahead and solder that, make that a good repair. But for right now, I'm still just pulling these things apart. Get this thing out of here. I peeled away the blue plastic thing. Here you can totally see what's going on. This is how that Scotch lock thing works. It's basically this little clip. I'm going to pull it off of there. How it just basically gets pressed right onto the wire, pierces through the insulation and makes contact with the wire. Yeah, so this is maybe not the best way to connect wires, but it's very commonly done. It's quick, it's easy, and now it's gone. So now we can get back and figure out the damage that's been done. So looking at the wires, if they seem to be pretty well intact, maybe just a little electrical tape on there, like this one here is not too bad, but I sure didn't like that other one. This guy here, it's pretty bad. So we're going to go ahead and I just want to show you how to make a nice clean repair to a wire that's been severed like this one here. So just simply going to cut it right where it's broken, right where that was. Now that I've cut the wire, I need to trim off about, say, 1/4 inch or so of the insulation on there. And that's could be kind of a challenge because you're in a confined area inside the headlight bucket. So now using this tool that I was talking about before, it's awful hard to get that in there. So it's almost impossible. If you have another type of wire stripping tool like this one, where the wire stripping portions in the front, that's a lot more easy to deal with. You can get in there and cut the insulation off like that. But even better is something like this. This is a really cool German tool, Jokari. It's a wire stripper, and you may have seen us use something similar in videos of the past, but this is the one that we now carry. It's got a cutter here, stripper here. You can set the depth. It's very cool. So with this, you just simply go in, set the tool right on the wire, like so, pull the trigger, boom, and the wire is perfectly stripped. Doesn't get any easier. I'm going to take just a small piece of shrink tubing and slip that onto the longest piece of wire. Now, by the way, don't be too intimidated by all this stuff. It kind of looks like a lot of spaghetti, but if you look really carefully at it, all the wires are color-coded, and the circuit board is also color-coded. That's on /6 and /7 models. Pretty easy to figure it out. In fact, what you could do, for example, when soldering this thing, since it is in close quarters, could actually just reach in and unplug the wire. Let's do that. Let's show you how that works. So I've got this wire that I cut that goes into the harness, and the other end plugs into the circuit board. So all I have to do is kind of isolate that one wire, reach in here with some needle nose, get a good bite on it. So there we go, just unplug it, see? A lot easier to work with now with an unplug. It'll be easy enough to put it back in because it's like a missing tooth there. You know where it came from. So now, having done that, put the shrink tubing over the end. Just kind of twist the wires a little bit and then jam them into each other like so. Just kind of like that. And then just give it a little twist, kind of flatten it out. And you see how it all holds itself in place, just like that. Now I'm just going to dab some solder on there. So you heat the wire, then introduce the solder till it flows. Just hit that, shrink that tubing down. You've got really good repair now. Cool. So the other, where the other scotches were isn't so bad as that one. Now that that's completed, I just need to plug that back in where it came from. Just going to grab it again with needle nose and push that right back on the connector where it was before. Cool, that's sorted. Okay, so now let's deal with these headlight wires. It seems like they're cut pretty short, but actually there's probably enough material here. But anyway, let's go ahead and just cut this back a bit. Actually, we'll do something really cool. Show you some other neat stuff here. Okay, I'm just going to cut these old ends off. Okay, so I cut these connectors off, and they're kind of short. The whole harness is a bit too tight to work with to plug it all in and be able to fiddle with the headlight and everything like this. So there's a few ways we can go about fixing this. One way is to lengthen these wires. We can simply butt connect a white wire, a yellow wire, or a brown wire that's soldered together. We can do that. Or these also at the other end, they terminate and plug into the circuit board. And so we could also just unplug them, take the whole thing off, and make new wires or lengthen them. Another kind of cool option that we have is that we offer this wire conduit. It's the same type of thing. As you see here, we have it in all different sizes. And so we could make a really cool replacement out of this. So all of them are viable. Let's think what we're going to do though, because I think it's kind of cool to show you how to solder a little bit more in detail. So let's do that right on the bike. Probably the easiest way to go. Yeah, so I got this little hidden stash of wire here. And so we need a white, a yellow, and a brown to lengthen those. Just going to pull off a few inches there. There we go. We got something to work with now. All right, so I got my wires. They match real nice. And let's go ahead and solder those on. So going back to this cool wire stripper again, works great. Just go in there, grab the wire. Right on there, we'll do the same thing with these wires here, just the loose ones. Just cut the edge off. So here again, what I do is just basically push them together like that. And then just twist a little bit around, just kind of pack it all in. And roll it. And if you do that, then the wire should just stay by itself. And then you can come in and solder it. Cool. Let it flow through the wires and just hold on to it for a couple seconds while the solder kind of dries up, or cools down, I should say. And let's go to the next one. Okay, that's a good repair right there. And now we'll put some shrink tubing on and keep going. We just heat that up, it shrinks down around, makes a perfect protective repair. Okay, then we'll take that one step further and with some bigger shrink tubing, go right over all three repairs and cover that all up real nice. Something like this. I think we can actually push this through, maybe. That'd be way cool. I think I could even get this connector through. I've used some hemostats. These are really cool because you can do so many things with this. Huh? Is that pretty cool or what? Now, we'll shrink that down. We've made a pretty nice repair there. Okay, all that's really left now is to tin the end of these wires so that they get a nice bite when you put it in that headlight connector we were looking at before. So using this tool, I can actually make them all the same length for starters. All right, so just really about getting some solder on the end so that when you plug these into that connector that they have something to bite into. Just heat up the wire. Get a fair amount of solder on there like that. All right, so I think we've got the headlight wiring pretty well sorted. All right, so the connector is actually marked. 31 is ground, so we're going to put the brown wire in there. Just press against the spring. Set the wire in there, 31. And then what remains is 56A and B. 56A is the white wire, so that one goes in here, and that leaves this one for there. All right, so that's actually the repair for the headlight and parking light. That's all ready to go. The other issue that we're having with this bike is with the ignition switch. It doesn't work. I mean, we know can't really get the key out, or there it goes, but it's all mangled. It's just not good. I'm going to have to put a new ignition switch in. Luckily, we have those available. They've been discontinued for many years, but check out this reproduction that we have. It's really very true to original, and even the keys too. It's got like a folding, comes with a folding key and a straight key, so it's pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and put one of these new switches in. This blue here, this is just a protective film because it's really shiny chrome underneath there, so that just comes right off. And it's a really nice part. Okay, so let's take the old one out first. Just unscrew all this stuff. The headlight ear, you can sort of just move it out of the way. Take all these washers and what have you that are there, out of there. There we go, just pulling out that right out like so. Now the switch is identical in terms of its connections. We can see just basically going to take the wires off the old switch and put them on the new one at a time, just the same way that they're on there right now. So with the inner nut that's on the switch is used to set the depth of the switch, so you can determine how far it protrudes. And also there's a couple of flats on the switch, you'll notice, that correspond with the flats of the hole. That keeps it from rotating. So you can just kind of leave a few threads in there like so, and then the nut that came off with a lock washer or the little wave washer underneath, and screw that on. And then I'm just going to push the headlight ear back in place to kind of get a gauge for where I want that to be. Actually, probably want that to protrude a little bit more. That should be pretty good. 27 millimeter wrench is what you need here. Doesn't have to be super tight, just a little bit snug. Then a washer, rubber, headlight ear, rubber washer nut. Once we get everything sorted out, we'll want to aim the light later, but come back and change those. But now we have a functional headlight switch. Bam. So that's great. All right, so now we got that all buttoned up. Who would have thunk it? You know, all that spaghetti in there, but it's all set. So now let's go ahead and plug these wires in. That's your parking light. And then this is the wire that was just kind of straying there. And that's going to be the ground wire right there. And then this plugs in like so, our new cool plug. Okay, prior to putting the headlight into place, you may need to loosen this screw a little bit, just until it's just barely hanging on by this nut. And then it's a matter of making clearance with the wires in there for the connector, hooking the headlight on top on this raised portion here, and then bringing that clip into alignment down below, like so, just like that. Hold it all in place and tighten the screw. Here we go. So there we have it. The headlight's installed. We made a bunch of repairs inside, got rid of that tainted wiring that was in there, and it's starting to look more like a BMW every minute. So there's still quite a bit to do on this bike, but that's all we're going to do today. Next time around, we'll get the turn signals going. Some of the other electrical parts on the bike need some attention as well, but it's all the time we have today. So please leave your comments below, and also check out links to all the parts that we showed in this video. And if you have any questions, just contact us. We're happy to help. And we're here to help you keep your 2-valve twin on the road and wishing you many miles. So look forward to next time, and see you then.